Good morning, everyone. I changed my mind on what we're going to do today, so you guys are going to do notes on the phosphorus cycle, which is what I had planned for Friday, and basically we're going to flip-flop Thursday and Friday. So I will need you to get out your note packet. Just a reminder, I need your multiple choice tomorrow, so if you get done with the work early today, work on that multiple choice. Okay. I'm also going to leave the review up on my front table, the review for the test. Remember, your test's on Tuesday, so I'm planning on handing that out on Friday. But if you get done early and you want to work on that or you want to grab it, it's on the front table, so you can go ahead and grab that if you would like. When we talk about the phosphorus cycle is super important, and it is unique in that it's the only cycle that does not have a gaseous component. So when we think about a gas, right, what type of gas, when we talk about the water cycle, what is water as a gas? We have water vapor, right? So evaporation, transpiration, that's water, right? Water vapor in the air. When we think about carbon, what's the gas in the carbon cycle? Most of the time it's carbon dioxide in the air. When we talk about the nitrogen cycle, what do we talk about? That's a gas in the nitrogen cycle. We talk about N2, which is nitrogen gas. So all of these things have a gaseous component, right? They're able to become a gas. Phosphorus cannot become a gas, okay? There's some chemical reasons for this that I'm not going to go into, but basically it's not found naturally as a gas. So make sure you put a star by this because this is one of the things you need to remember. I've seen lots of multiple choice questions on this particular factor, the fact that it doesn't have a gaseous phase. If we look at this picture, we see that wind and rain erode phosphate-rich rocks. So one of the main components of phosphorus is rocks. It comes from rocks, okay? And then it's carried into the water. Okay, we get runoff from phosphates from fertilizers. Plants can get it from the soil. So again, just like nitrogen, plants can take it up. Plants can take up a lot of different things from the soil, like nitrogen and magnesium and potassium. And basically they get everything from the soil except for carbon. Carbon they get from the air. So basically it's in rocks and soil. It doesn't exist as a gas. And you'll see some very similar things. For example, how do animals get it? Oh, they eat plants. Well, that's the same thing for carbon. Carbon's in plants. Animals eat it. Same thing for nitrogen. Nitrogen's in plants. Animals eat it. Okay. So very, very similar concepts with all these cycles. And we're going to fill out a sheet today that compares all of these cycles together. All right. So phosphorus. Why do we need it? It's an essential nutrient for plants and animals, so it's found in DNA and RNA, just like nitrogen, meaning that it's in all living things, okay? If you remember from bio, I'm teaching my kids this in bio right now, we learned cho, chan, chomp, which this is in microtyping, so it's probably pretty tricky to read, but nucleic acids have nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, so we need nitrogen and phosphorus both to make up that DNA. And it's a limiting nutrient in many ecosystems, okay? Especially aquatic ecosystems. So it increases the productivity. Remember we talked about productivity, NPP, in aquatic systems, especially freshwater aquatic systems. So two big things you need to know. Remember we talked about limiting nutrient on land, nitrogen. And phosphorus, limiting in water. So that means there's not enough to go around. So anytime we add more, we're going to increase the amount that our plants can grow. We're going to increase NPP. Okay? So both of these nutrients are found in fertilizers because they're limited on land and sometimes in water. So adding these to land is going to make our corn grow taller. Adding them to water is going to make our algae grow larger, which a lot of times if we're talking about farming is a good thing. So let's talk about the phosphorus cycle specifically. It is cycled slowly. We already know there's no gas phase. If it's found in rocks and it's found in soil, it's going to take a long time for that phosphorus to get into things or to move around. Because think about rocks. If we've got to wait for rain to weather away that rock and wash it downstream, it's going to take a really slow, long time. So the phosphorus cycle is very slow. It's not like the carbon cycle where you can do photosynthesis really quickly and move carbon from one area to another. Or the water cycle where the rain in the vapor in the atmosphere condenses to form clouds and then it rains. Where is it found? Typical places, okay, it is found in water, rocks, sediment. Remember we said that's soil or dirt, so ocean sediments, and organisms. So the big one here is going to be rocks and dirt, basically. Rocks and dirt. Because we know, well, the water cycle, we've got water, nitrogen's in water, carbons can be found in water. Organisms have all of these other elements we've talked about. But the phosphorus cycle is one of the only ones that's found in rocks. Okay, all of them can be found in dirt too. Moves via weathering. Okay, weathering, think of erosion, if you know that word. It just means wearing away. So rocks get worn away from water, from wind, and little rock particles get washed downstream, or nutrients from that rock, minerals from that rock get washed downstream. Uplifting means nutrients are coming to the surface. So if we look at our diagram here, we have geological uplift pushes new rock to the surface. So new rocks that might have phosphorus can come to the surface. And weathering is when we get that rain or that wind moving some of that phosphorus or eroding some of that phosphorus off of the rocks. So we're going to talk about leaching. Okay, leaching is this term where water removes nutrients from the soil. So what happens is we've got a body of water, or we've got a river. Okay, our river is running downstream and it runs over some rocks. Well, that river is going to take some of those nutrients from that rock, or some of the minerals, I should say, from that rock downstream. Or let's say you've got water running down a soccer field. Well, some of the nutrients and some of the minerals that are in that soccer field, in that grass, are going to go along with the water and be removed. So leaching is when water takes nutrients, a lot of times nitrogen and phosphorus, from the soil or from rocks, and then deposits them in bodies of water. This is going to be super important when we're talking about mining, because this can be a bad thing if we have a lot of nutrients that are not good. Okay. So this is one of the main mechanisms that the phosphorus cycle uses to get phosphorus into soil and into water, is this leaching, this idea that we've got water running over the rocks, and that water causes some of those rocks, some of those rock particles to disappear into that water and then be carried downstream into bigger bodies of water like lakes or oceans or whatever. All right, so human impacts. Again, a lot of these free response questions are going to ask you, well, what is the human impact? What can be done to prevent these things from happening? So humans remove phosphorus from the ground. They mine it. So we find phosphorus in rocks, right? So to mine means we're taking those rocks out. Why do we take phosphorus out of the ground? Well, we use it in fertilizer. Just like nitrogen. Nitrogen and phosphorus are in fertilizer. So we use it to make fertilizer. We also use it to make dishwashing detergent. So if you have any of these at home, these are all different types of dishwasher detergents that use phosphorus. Okay, runoff. So you don't have to write anything necessarily here. Let me just double check. Yes, okay. You don't have to write this down because you have it down. You have runoff from phosphorus fertilizers can cause algal blooms, okay? So runoff from detergents, right, fertilizers and animal waste, because all of that has phosphorus, can enter aquatic ecosystems. So it runs off the land and it goes into the water, and it can cause algal blooms. So we're going to talk about those algal blooms that we mentioned before, this big expansion of the algae, which is ultimately harmful. So let me tell you about algal blooms, okay? So this is what you're writing down. When the algae dies, so the fertilizer, let me go back for a sec. Fertilizer runs down off of the land. So you put fertilizer, right? And then it rains really hard, okay? It runs into a big body of water. And in that body of water, remember, phosphorus and nitrogen are limited. So it's going to cause the plants to grow like crazy. So the plants grow like crazy, okay? And we get tons and tons of algae. Well, here's the problem. When the algae dies, it consumes a lot of oxygen, okay? So in order to decompose, oxygen is used. And if we have a lot of dead algae decomposing, because eventually it can't live forever, it consumes all the oxygen and it makes the area hypoxic, okay? You might have remembered the prefix hypo when we talked about hypotonic in biology. Same prefix, it means below, under, low. So low in oxygen. So what happens then is we see all these dead fish and dead wildlife because there's not enough oxygen for them in the water. So we're going to revisit this idea of algal blooms, okay, and eutrophication. It's going to be something that we talk about a lot, okay? The word for this is called eutrophication, all right? This whole process of nutrients run off into waterways, and they cause a lot of plants to increase in growth, and then eventually those plants die and they create dead zones. So eutrophication means we've got excess nutrients, too many nutrients, and as a result, we've got increased plant growth. So that is where we are going to stop. You guys are going to get a chart, okay? This chart is biogeochemical cycles, okay? Here's a picture of that chart that you're going to be filling out. So you've got carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and water. These are the cycles, okay? I know it's a lot of information. I would highly recommend you make flashcards for some of these terms and some of this stuff because you need to know it. You can also find flashcards online on Quizlet for this kind of stuff as well. So you're just going to fill out, is it found in plants? Yes, no, okay? You can use online resources, so you can use your phone. You can use basically any of your notes, okay? You can use pictures, okay? Anything that you would like, you can use, okay? How does it get into plants? So photosynthesis, do they take it up from their roots? Do they take it up from their leaves? How does it get out of plants? Okay, is it found in animals? How does it get into the animals? How does it get out of animals? Is it found in rocks? Does it have a gaseous phase? Is it produced from burning fossil fuels? What are the main sources? Okay, so you are going to do this chart, okay, and this is going to be for your own use, but I would like you to turn it in. I will give you points and then I'll give it back to you tomorrow, okay? So multiple choice and this chart are due tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions.